In 1806, Meriwether Lewis said, "From the color of its bloom it resembles lakes of fine clear water. So complete is this deception that on first sight I could have sworn it was water." Lewis had cast his eyes upon a magnificent field of camas flowers. This is Liberty Hill Bluff, the last pristine camas field in northwest Oregon. Sadly, the bluff in this shot is slated to be destroyed by a North Dakota gravel mining company. State agencies are requesting comments from those who have an opinion on this plan. Liberty Hill erupts with camas blossoms every spring. Such fields once covered the bluffs of St. Helens, along with significant portions of the Columbia River Basin and Willamette Valley. The Chinook Indians regarded camas as an essential food staple. Women tended the plants, harvesting the bulbs only when they had reached their peak size, then slow cooking them for maximal nutritional value. Camas bulbs look like onions but taste sweet, like pumpkin. Unfortunately, almost all the native camas fields have been destroyed by development, agriculture, and mining. Less than 2% of the original coverage of native prairie remains in the Willamette Valley, and Liberty Hill is the most extensive and well-preserved remnant plot of camas meadow on the northern side. Of course, the meadow's resources go far beyond camas. Other times of year you'll see that Liberty Hill has unparalleled diversity of native wildflowers and wetlands flora. Some of the rarest plants found here include meadow birdsfoot trefoil, fringed loosestrife, and western lady's tresses. But the most impressive aspect of the meadow is the sheer number of uncommon species that aren't often found elsewhere. The meadow is also backed by over 100 acres of oak woodland, making it the largest and most natural meadow and oak complex in our region. The wetlands are equally impressive. Vernal pools support the Oregon fairy shrimp, a rare and vulnerable species known only from a few dozen locations. Streams support native mollusks. The runoff from these wetlands feeds into Dalton Lake, a mitigation wetland that Bonneville restored just this year to improve juvenile habitat for endangered salmon. 14 amphibian and reptile species live in the meadow or surrounding woodland, 5 of which breed in these vernal pools. Several snakes rarely seen in northwest Oregon thrive here, such as the northern rubber boa that sniffs out small rodents underground, or the western yellow-bellied racer that visually tracks its prey above ground in the prairie grass. The western skinks found in this meadow are only known from one other location in the county, and likely will disappear from the region if this habitat isn't preserved. Close to 100 species of birds have been recorded on Liberty Hill in just a few surveys, including 7 species listed by the state of Oregon as sensitive. Olive-sided flycatcher and willow flycatcher hunt the fields for insects in the spring, while white-breasted nuthatch and pileated woodpecker search for bugs in the surrounding trees. Sometimes the bluff is visited by mountain quail and peregrine falcon. You can spot grazing deer, elk, and brush rabbits both in the meadow and in the woods. Raccoons and bobcat hunt small animals along the edge, while skunks and weasels probe the undergrowth. If the full extent of the oak woodland was restored, it might support species otherwise nearly gone from the region, such as acorn woodpecker and western gray squirrel. The mining company claims it will mitigate the 10 acres of wetlands it is tearing up, but what good will that do for the 70 acres of meadow and oak woodland they remove? They have no plans to replace that at all, nor could they. They are destroying the most pristine half of the meadow, and the combination of vehicle traffic, disturbed hydrology, constant dust from a planned 50 years of mining operation, and poorly designed mitigation will degrade the remnants seriously. Liberty Hill will no longer be the most amazing camas meadow left in northwest Oregon, but just another adulterated fragment with patches of camas here and there. It is the last of its kind, and if they rip it out, there will be no bringing it back. I want to share one story. In 1937, James Tanner was researching the last surviving population of ivory-billed woodpeckers. While he was there, the land was sold to the Chicago Mill and Lumber Company. Tanner told the company about the precious nature of these woods and outlined a plan to spare the unique woodpeckers. The Chicago executives ignored him. After the National Audubon Society and U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service pleaded with the company to turn the remaining tract of forest into a reserve, Chicago Mill and Lumber CEO James Griswold famously responded, "We are just money grubbers. We are not concerned with ethical considerations." In 1944, as the logging was nearly complete, an Audubon Society staff member spotted the last ivory-billed woodpecker. Wildlife artist Don Eckelberry rushed to the site and spent 2 weeks sketching it, making the famous final drawings of the species. Then he watched as the lumber company cut down the remaining trees used by the magnificent bird. The ivory-billed woodpecker would never be seen again. To read this in 2022 is to think, how could we be so blind? How could we demolish an irreplaceable habitat? How can we not realize that we would never get back what was lost? And yet here we are, once again poised to destroy that which cannot be replaced. If we allow a mine to ruin this bluff, then by the next generation, certain native plant and wildlife species will never be found within 40 miles in any direction. Local children will hear about what happened, gaze up at the stripped hillside, and wonder how we could have been so short-sighted. There are other places to mine basalt nearby that won't disturb critical habitat, including directly north of the present quarry. The public comment period for opposing the mine ends soon, and many of us are writing to express our feelings for why it would be a travesty to let it go through. Once we thought the world was so big, we could take whatever we wanted from it without consequence. Now we see it disappearing around us. We may forgive previous generations for being naive, for not knowing everything we know. We don't have the same excuse.